Welcome back, everyone. Today we are going to talk about Vienna Ensemble Pro 7, the Synchron Player, and the Epic Orchestra 2.0. So the lovely people at VSL saw my template videos, and inevitably they also saw that I was still on Vienna Ensemble Pro 6. And so they thought, let's hook a girl up with Vienna Ensemble Pro 7. And I hadn't really looked at VE Pro 7 because I thought, it's working perfectly, so, why? How could they improve something that's already working as intended? So why would I upgrade? Well, here's why. So let's start with VE Pro 7, the new functionalities, and why I like them. So I think the biggest gain here is, first of all, for Logic users, because this is the first AU3 plugin on the market, similar to VST3 that Cubase users will already be familiar with. It supports up to 48 MIDI ports, equaling 768 MIDI channels per instance. And this was one of the main reasons why I switched from Logic to Cubase, because it was such a pain to use Vienna Ensemble Pro in Logic. You had to go into the environment and do a whole thing, and I just hated it. I just hated that Logic did not have the capabilities to work properly with Vienna Ensemble Pro in the way that I wanted it to work. So I left Logic at the time in favor of Cubase because it had VST3. But so with this new AU3 plugin, Logic users can use Vienna Ensemble Pro the same way everybody else is using it. It has some significant interface improvements. You can change let me show you here. You can change the horizontal instance list to a vertical list. I kind of find this cleaner, but I'm so used to the other one now that I might just keep the other one. I have yet to decide that. But so you can switch the view now. There's the CPU usage is being of each instance is now being shown, and it corresponds with the one in the bottom there. It also shows those little dots here. Those little squares show you whether there's incoming audio or MIDI, so that's kind of nice as well. The thing I'm stupidly excited about is the folder tracks. Can we just all agree that every music software at this point should come with folder tracks? Can we all agree on that? It makes everything so much cleaner. So you can just create a new folder and just throw stuff in there that you want grouped up. So I'm grouping it up by library now, but you can also, of course, do it by articulation or however you are set up. I just kind of like this because you can also now mute and solo the different folders and everything in it. It just makes it so much less cluttered that I enjoy this feature. It also now has more colors. It was kind of restricted before that, but now you have the whole color wheel available to you, which I'm also excited about. I like color coding things. Again, it makes everything so much cleaner. There's also brand new audio plugins. Let me go into the mixer and just open this up. So you can now go in here. You have some really, really good stuff. Analyzer, compressor, equalizer, exciter, limiter, matrix mixer. These also come in surround. If you create surround channels, there will be surround options here as well, which is really quite nice. And of course, as before, you can also install your own audio plugins, of course, and use them here, which can be nice if you're set up the way I'm set up. For example, in my DAW, I only have all the violins come out of the same channel, but maybe you want the violins of one library EQ'd differently from another library. So then here you can do that. Some of these plugins are so good, I might actually start to insert some EQs and mixing plugins here, which I so far haven't really done yet because I'm keeping that in my DAW. But that might actually be one of my next updates for my template. It also has some other new capabilities, like new iPad capabilities and new and improved automation capabilities and better resource management. You can now, I think, activate and deactivate instances through automation and stuff like that. It's not quite as relevant to me because I'm not really short on resources, but if you are, these features are really great. So one major new change is the new Epic Orchestra 2.0 that you get for free with your purchase of Vienna Ensemble Pro 7. This is a bit of a game changer because it went from, you were always getting samples with your purchase of Vienna Ensemble Pro, but it went from 7 gigabytes of orchestra sounds to over 70 gigabytes. So this is a substantial step up from what you were getting before. And you use the free Synchron Player with it. So if you're a beginner who, hasn't invested in like the full version of Contact yet or stuff like that, and you need kind of an all-in-one solution, this is it. You get an orchestra, you get a player, and you get Vienna Ensemble Pro. Now all you need is a DAW. You already have all these great mixing plugins here, but also in your DAW. So you have everything you need to create stuff. So let's go over the Synchron Player first. So if you're in Vienna Ensemble Pro, there's this little button down here, which is super helpful. So you can just click on it and it'll create a Synchron Player. So here on the right, you have the presets and instruments. Let's go to Epic Orchestra 2.0. Let's load this one, Appassionata strings. I don't usually get excited about players because I usually just set them up once and that's it. I don't really look at them anymore, but this is a nice looking thing, okay? And the functionality is just top notch. This is well thought out. This is modern looking, clean, but not so modern that it gets confusing. I find some of the more modern players are just so modernized that I'm just having a hard time figuring things out. This is so well visualized. Down here, you can see that whatever you hover the mouse over, you're gonna get an explanation of what it is. So let's start with this general page. You have your general CCs that you have assigned, but you can also, reassign them to something else. You can resize and rescale this thing, which is also kind of nice. You'd think every plugin would have that, but no. You can also add more stuff here, so that's quite nice. You have the basic stuff here, legato mode. You can switch between mono and poly. You can set the tuning, pitch bend range, voice limit, release voice limit, voice steal release time, source voice limit. You have a filter available down here. Then you have other pages like the control page, which I just love. Again, here you can set up so many different things and assign them to a CC. And this is also quite nice. You can even set up here the CC curve, meaning it shows how you want the fader to react to that particular controller. So you can leave it linear, but you can also change it to something else, which you can do in Contact as well, by the way, but you have to go into the back end and do a whole thing. Here you do not. It's just right there and it's easy to use, which is rare in these types of players. So there's no back end here, nothing you have to do. It's all right there in the front. You have the Edit tab, which has also stuff where in Contact you would have to go into the back end very often for envelope and tuning and all these things. And then you have the Mix window. For this patch, it's kind of empty. Let's load a different patch where that really comes into play a lot more, like this one. See, here you have the different mic positions that you can enable, which is quite nice, and use the faders to create your mix. You can also disable those again. On other patches, you don't necessarily have those options, at least not in this version, but you still have these 3 presets, close, ambient, and distant, which is really, really nice. Personally, I prefer the default, the ambient, but the close and distant are quite nice too. I just find number 2 to be a very nice middle ground between the two. Then what else? All of these come with an EQ on them as well, which is quite nice. This means someone actually sat down and said, let's EQ our library in the best way that we think. Of course, you can adjust this, but all of these instruments already come pre-EQ'd. So this is really, really nice of them to do. This is the Oboe d'Amour. So there are already EQ presets on it as well, which again, really great for beginners that are really unsure about this stuff. This is a great starting point. You have a reverb here and reverb settings. You can enable and disable this stuff. So overall, really nice. You can also add things, again, add mixer channels. Whatever you want to do, everything is right there in the front. Up here, you have also the CPU meter, which is quite nice if you need it, especially if you're, struggling with CPU. And then you have this thing. I would urge you, if you really want to know about this, to check out the video that VSL made about this. It's, what is it called? The articulation tree, I think. This is a bit complicated. It's the only thing that doesn't really explain itself, I would say. If we're gonna go easy here, let's load this is the string ensemble patch that comes with it. So now you can see all the key switches are starting at G7. So G7 is staccato, G#7 is sustain, and so forth. You can see the names right here. But say I want to change that. You can change it, of course, to program changes and other stuff, or to just a different key switch. But say I want the shorts and longs grouped together. Then you can click on this little plus and just say, okay, I want this to be shorts. So now I have staccato here, and say I also want pizzicato in that group. So then I copy the slot, paste slot. Now there's the pizzicato, and then I can just delete this one. So now G7 would be the shorts, and then G8 and G#8 would be the different short articulations. And then, you can do the same with the sustains and say, I want all the sustains to be triggered with G#7. So these could be longs. This doesn't really make sense what I'm doing right now. It's just to explain the thing. So copy this slot. Oops. Paste. Copy this slot. Paste. And copy this slot. Paste. And then get rid of these. Now, this doesn't necessarily make sense. Again, this is just for demonstration purposes. But so you have this nice little window here. Let's put it over there. which displays your different articulations when you click on them. So now that I've clicked on shorts, you can see here where these would be triggered. And then if I click on longs, you can see where those would be triggered. Again, this does not make any sense. It's just what I decided to do. And you can, of course, assign this again to anything else. If you want the shorts triggered by a key switch, but then the different articulations triggered by something else, you can do that too. It's like limitless possibilities. For this patch, it doesn't make sense. But let's look at, say, this patch, Wagner tubas. Here it makes more sense because you have 4 different players, which were apparently sampled separately, I would assume by this. And so F5 would trigger the full horn, the Wagner tuba patch. Say you want staccato, so that would be triggered by C6. And then you would trigger all 4 players at the same time. You see this little thing here is blue, which means they're all acting as one. You can also turn that off, then you would only trigger player 1, but that's obviously not what you want. You want all of them. And then the same goes for all these other articulations. However, sometimes maybe you want to write just for desk 1 and desk 2, so then you can actually separate the players out. So now you're only triggering player 1 and 2, and then maybe you want to write a different line for player 3 and 4. So this is how you can trigger those. Or maybe you just want player 1 as solo, in which case you use this key switch. This is kind of a rabbit hole. I will say that. This is kind of the thing that can either lead you to Wonderland or to hell, especially when it comes to key switches, because I personally do not like using key switches. The reason being, I'm having a hard time when I'm getting a new picture edit, making MIDI edits. I tend to accidentally cut out key switches and then everything's messed up, especially if you have something as intricate as this. This would be a nightmare if I accidentally cut out a bunch of key switches because you're using multiple at the same time. That just gives me anxiety right now on a movie project. You know, I don't know. If you like using key switches, this is great. This is incredibly detailed. I don't know if I would personally need that much detail. It feels like a lot of work to work with this. But again, if you have unlimited time and you can actually mess around with all this stuff, this is great. I mean, I don't know anything that is more detailed than this and gives you more control than this. And once you understand it, you kind of understand it. It's just not that I would claim that I fully understand it. I hope I didn't mess it up when I explained it. Again, they have a full video dedicated to this. Please watch that. They do a much better job of explaining this. But yeah, the whole key switch thing is, I would much rather be able to assign these key switches to just different tracks. So instead of using key switches, just have them assigned to a different MIDI channel. And I don't think it can do that. I think the Synchron Player so far is not multi-timbral, so you cannot actually, if you want a different articulation on a different track, you have to load the player again. So this would actually be kind of nice if they could incorporate that in the future, that you could just assign a MIDI channel here instead of key switches, and then just have them on different MIDI tracks. I know not everybody works like that, so, you know, it's a question of preference. For me, it's just a practical consideration because I get so many edits. I have to make so many conforms to new picture edits that sometimes this is not the ideal solution. What I do love is that they have this window here. So this kind of thing can become a real nightmare for your orchestrator. So you want to be careful with that. So it would be nice if you are using this and you are using several key switches at the same time and it's this intricate, then take a screenshot of this and send it to your orchestrators so that they know what's going on. But yeah, normally, for example, I would not make decisions like this, like desk 1, desk 2. That's done by my orchestrator. But I understand that's unique to someone like me who just has a lot of live recording, so I don't really need to worry about that. If you don't have live recording, this might be something that might be interesting to you. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say about the player, question mark. It has so many functionalities, and I really, really like it. I think of all the players that I've tried so far from different developers, this is definitely my favorite. So now let's get to the Epic Orchestra 2.0 itself, now that we've covered the player. I've honestly never used this. Until the people from VSL said, hey, we noticed that you aren't using this, but you have this in your account. Just use it if you want. And I must admit, I've always been a bit snobbish about it because I thought, oh, well, a 7 gigabyte orchestra, this is not going to add anything to what I already have. So I never even touched it. I never tried it out. I kind of vaguely knew I had it available to me. Now, as mentioned, this one is 70 gigabytes. And boy, was I wrong. I wrote a whole demo with it, so see for yourself what it sounds like. So as you can see, you can cover a lot of ground with this free orchestra. I mean, it's not free, it comes with a purchase, but honestly, if you are starting out right now and you don't have anything yet, you just have a DAW and nothing else, I would honestly put this on the list of potential purchases. You get the player, you get the basic orchestra, and it sounds good out of the box. You get all these EQ presets that you can learn from. You get all these audio plugins with Vienna Ensemble Pro. It's also great, I think, for travelers. I will definitely use this for when I, have to travel overseas for conducting. Sometimes I still need to make edits or I still need to sketch things out. It has happened, me sitting in a hotel room late at night trying to fix something. This is such a good bread and butter thing. If you look here, so they have this folder with mostly ensemble patches that react to mod wheel. I think this one reacts to velocity, if I remember correctly, but I like this one more. So it comes with a string ensemble patch, a woodwind ensemble patch, an oboe d'amour. They have these random, soloists in there. Cornet, fanfare trumpets, epic horns, timpani, and a percussion patch. And even here you can see they've listed what's on which key. Super nice, super helpful. We all know those percussion patches that we have, and we have to play through the whole thing to find that instrument that we were looking for. So that is solved by just this thing right here. And then you get a little bit extra. You get the synchron strings, one light version, this one right here. These are effects that they make available to you. Here again, you can see how it's mapped, high strings, low strings, and down here you can see what it actually is. Then they give you a light version of the violins 1 from Appassionata. They give you the violins from the chamber strings, and they also give you patches from the light patches from the dimension brass, like the aforementioned Wagner tubas, and also the individual players if you want them. They give you an excerpt of the synchron percussion. So here's the snare drum. Look at that. That's a ton of stuff. They give you the bass drum, and they give you the tom-tom. Random choice, tom-tom. You'd think they would give you cymbals, but okay, tom-tom it is. Then synchron power drums. I actually haven't tried these yet. Looks like it's a drum kit. Yeah, bass drum, snare, tom, hi-hat. There you go. And then smart spheres, which is synthesized stuff. But so this is all they're giving you, and this is quite a lot. This is more than enough. Personally, I think there are some incredibly beautiful patches in here. Like one of my favorite patches is this flautando patch, but also this soft lyrical vibrato patch from the Synchron Strings 1, and it's only the light edition, so this isn't even the full thing. But very, very beautiful. Some of these patches will definitely find their way into my template, because even if you already have refined string libraries, this is great for layering, for sketching, for traveling. This is great for, passages that just don't need all the intricate sample libraries. And if you want more of these, of course, you can just buy the full version and add it here, and you have it available. But to me, this is honestly what makes the difference now, because initially I would have said Vienna Ensemble Pro is pro software. So I would have recommended this to people who, are well underway. They already have a bunch of software and they're already, looking for, better solutions in their workflow. People who already have a bit of experience and a bit of gear. I would have said, for them, Vienna Ensemble Pro would be the next thing to go to, the upgrade, so to speak. But now they've essentially turned this into not just a tool for people who are well underway, but also people who are beginners. So I would urge colleges and students to really look at this and see if maybe this is somewhere to go first before you go anywhere else. It sounds great out of the box. They've taken really good care of those EQs and all those settings. They're definitely tailored exactly to these specific instruments they've created. So they're giving you a really great out-of-the-box option with the bread and butter of what you need to get started. And then, of course, eventually you want to get more refined. But for now, if this was the first thing you had, you'd be well underway, I think. I hope this was helpful. This was definitely new for me because I've never really taken such a deep look into this. But yeah, take a look at it, and if you find it useful, have fun.